ICE2024. I'm here with Kehn from All in Diversity Project. So Kelly, tell me, how has the gaming industry responded to improving diversity, do you think, since the inception of your company?
We started All in Diversity Project back in 2017. And back then it was a foreign concept to most of the companies. We spent a year talking, preaching sometimes, raising awareness. And then in 2018, at this very conference, the commissioner of the UKGC, the Gambling Commission, came out and said that it was over-sexualized, that we were not doing right by women. There weren't enough women in leadership positions. And it was picked up by the UK media. It was picked up by everybody in this conference. And as they say, timing is everything. And suddenly, eyes and ears were open to what we were trying to do. And it became very, very real to people.
So you've seen a big shift since then. Do you still find you're encountering resistance, though?
So I think as a whole industry, we've matured. It was a very young industry, 5-10 years ago. As an industry, we've matured. We understand the commercial relevance of why diversity, equality, and inclusion matters for individual companies, but for the industry as a whole. And it's not so much more about preaching or trying to teach people about it. It's about trying to now include as many groups as possible, make sure that this industry is inclusive of all its people.
How do you actively assist operators in driving meaningful improvements in their diversity and inclusion? How do you do that?
So at All in Diversity Project, we believe that if we can't implement corporate strategy that you would do for a digital transformation or new product or new hire, if you can't do implement it in the same way, it's never going to happen. So one of the things you have to do is be able to measure progress. So every year we do an annual report. We take a measure of what's happening with the industry. We measure practice and policy, globally what's happening. We talk about how it's affecting product, how it's affecting regulation, all those things. And that is a real help, I think, to any business who wants to add it as a corporate strategy, right? We also talk about diversity, equality, and inclusion. It's not the job of HR. It's not one person's job. It's everyone's job. And as we sort of welcome in the younger generation, it becomes incredibly more important to the company.
And so you're setting out those benchmarks with those reports that companies can then look at and judge themselves against, I guess.
Exactly. So the companies can judge themselves year over year. We benchmark for them privately, but they can also have a look at the annual report, which is anonymous, summarized data, and see where they stand sort of either in Malta or in the type of products that they, offer or type of customer base.
With the industry expanding into Latin America, into Africa, do you see that as a positive step for diversity and inclusion?
Yes, of course. I think as individual companies move into different jurisdictions, it becomes harder to maintain culture that you may have if you set up in Malta and moving to a different country. You have to be aware that people come with different perceptions, different backgrounds, all those things. However, if you have a foundation of wanting to be inclusive and create a culture of belonging, that helps. That helps to go into these new markets and understand who your customers are and who your potential employees would be.
Do you think unconscious biases may still play?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, sorry. Yes, of course. We all live in society, right? We don't leave society at the door when we walk into a company. What we bring to a company is part of what we see in society, and we all have bias. We're all sexist. We all have all kinds of biases, right? Like it's actually a survival tactic, right? Our brain makes these decisions for us because we had to stay out of danger, right? And some of those things still reside, and if we can be aware of them, then we can act accordingly.
Thank you so much. That's really interesting. In recent years, there's been an increased interest in women's sport, especially obviously with the World Cup. How do you see these trends impacting more broadly on the iGaming industry?
Yeah, I think what's important to realize is that women's sport is on the rise with all fans, viewers, and that doesn't mean it's on the rise with women. Or it's on the rise with women bettors or little girls. It's on the rise with everyone. It's a new product, right? And if we can have more products, more diversified products, we're better. Like the companies can be better. They are going to make more money, right? And that's good. And the customers will be happier.
Fantastic. As a female leader within the industry, how do you see the industry responding to encouraging women to join and also, championing female leadership? Do you think that's something that still needs work?
Yeah, I think it definitely needs a lot of work. So part of our benchmarking and data collection, I would say as an industry as a whole, in terms of female leadership, we're about 26% female when it comes to leadership, which is on par with US and UK in terms of board representation across all companies. However, as a gender, we are 50-50. It is black and white, right? And there still are barriers to break down, structures to break down in order to get more females into leadership.
What would you like to see being done more to help that process?
It's a fine line because I think a lot of people are afraid of tokenism or making the wrong decision on that hire because of the group that they come from. So I would like to see more awareness of that, right? More merit-based discussions, pure merit-based discussions. I'd like to see us breaking down those structures of what it means to be a female in leadership. And it doesn't necessarily mean being at a job 24 hours a day. It doesn't necessarily mean not being empathetic or bringing your background with you, right? It doesn't mean leaving it at the door. We can be, different kinds. We can look differently as a leader and act differently as leaders.
You may know that Gaming Malta has launched its Respect campaign, which is all about setting the record straight about the iGaming industry and really highlighting the facts, not the myths. In your experience, what are the most common misconceptions that you think you come across?
For a long period of time, and maybe even still today, it was a lot of, people think it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. We're a very heavy regulated industry, right? And that means our products are really regulated to protect the customer. And it's not a scam. They are very well developed products that are there to randomly, generate wins and stuff for customer. And I think because people don't understand how we make money or how we grow as an industry, then they feel like there might be something shady going on there, right? And that's a big myth that we need to. It's been displayed in other countries as well as Malta, right? That it's bad.
So actually, it's about possibly educating the outside world a little bit more on how the industry works. Do you think that would help?
Yes, I think sort of pulling down those curtains and revealing a little bit more about what we do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me, Kelly. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm thrilled to now be joined by Christina Thakor Ranki, who's the other co-founder of All in Diversity. Christina, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Now, do tell me, we heard a bit from Kelly about the gaming industry's response to diversity, but do you think there are more improvements that need to be made?
Well, I think, when we're talking about diversity, there is always going to be difference. And as Gen Z and Generation Alpha start to come in, those differences will continue to diversify and increase. So yeah, always room for improvement, as with anything in life.
Speaking of the different generations coming through, do you find their opinions and approach to diversity vary very much?
Very much so, and I can give you a very real example. I have a goddaughter, she's called Evie, she's 12 years old. And just in conversation, I said to her, "Do you have a boyfriend, Evie?" Her response, without batting an eyelid, "I don't have a boyfriend or a girlfriend." And that is the world they now live in. Kind of diversity, difference, that kind of whole pansexuality is just so normal for them.
Absolutely, really open. That's lovely. Can you share any success stories for us where businesses in the iGaming world have sort of embraced, diversity and shown some success in that area?
Absolutely. I mean, for me, one of the standouts is Betson. The work that Lena and Maria have done there is absolutely extraordinary. And then for me, it almost sets the blueprint, certainly for Europe, but also for the wider world. And you can kind of see the success being translated to the business bottom line there. I would say another one, if we're looking at outside of Europe, is Bally's.
Okay.
Yeah, when you look at their kind of senior leadership, it's a little bit like the UN Assembly. And again, what we're starting to see is that kind of correlation between diversity and bottom line profit.
Interesting. Betson have, of course, expanded into other areas such as India, Latin America. What sort of impact is that having generally on the diversity of the industry, would you say?
Well, I think it's like any other sector. In order to be able to serve 100% of the customer base, you need to understand 100% of the customer base. And somebody whose first language is not the first language of the customer is always going to be a challenge. Add in the cultural nuances, and it's an even bigger challenge. And when you look at how much businesses invest in marketing and acquisition, that's a lot of money to pay to get it wrong. Understand your customer, and the only way you can do that is to bring people with the profile of your customer into your business.
As a female leader in this industry, what more would you like to see being done to encourage women into the industry and encourage female leadership?
Gosh, well, that is $1 million question, isn't it? What can we do? Well, I think the first thing is to understand that 50% of our customers are women. And with the best will in the world, marketing data and analysis is not going to put you in the same mindset as a woman. And you're already starting to see some of the leaders in the industry shifting. We've seen a phenomenal rise in women's sport. Now, when you start to see an engagement in sport increasing, we know from the men's game, there is a gambling opportunity there. But again, you need to understand your customer. You need to understand the sport. And I'm betting women understand women's sport a little bit better than the men.
Amazing. Christine, thank you so much for your insights. It's been lovely to speak to you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.